Hello, and welcome to my series, Mediocre Money, where I talk about things that I do that are pretty mediocre with my money, but help me live the life that I want to live. So, a lot of the times I get questions from people about how do you travel so much? How is it possible for you to travel without breaking the bank? Now, there are plenty of folks out there that can talk to you about travel hacking, getting rewards points, finding discounts, all of those things, and I do a little bit of that. But really, but the thing that's really allowed me to travel more and get more out of life is the fact that I have a travel fund. So what I started doing was investing for short-term goals, and that includes a travel fund. Now, a lot of folks are a little bit and understandably concerned about investing for a short term goal, especially if we're in a place where the market is struggling, where we're looking at a crash or a potential downturn. So, one of the things that I've done is long advocated the creation of your fund. And I use this for travel, and I use a taxable investment account. And you don't have to do that, but it's what I do. So I used a Betterment account to start this off, and then I opened another, and then I used a goal. So I put extra money, like I put money aside in that goal. So one of the things I did was decide travel is a priority for me, and I want to make travel happen. So I opened up an account just for that. And you can do that however you want, whether you choose a high yield savings account or whether you do what I do and use a taxable investment account. Either way, the idea is to open up a fund. A separate account that you can put in there and call it your travel fund. We have emergency funds. We have funds to save up for home ownership, for a down payment on a home. Why don't we have travel funds? So that's where I'm at. So what you do is you go ahead and you say, okay, how much can I set aside each month to go for this goal of travel? So when I first started out, it wasn't a whole lot. I just set aside about $100 a month, and every month just automatically put that money aside into an account to build up over time. And it did. It took me about 2 years to really get this going and really sort of test it out. And in the meantime, I did my best, like short trips, really frugal travel. But the idea was to build this seed of my travel fund. And then once that's done, that's when you make the next move, right? So one of the things I do is I do use credit cards. I do use them to build up rewards. So the first thing I do is I pay for my travel with a rewards credit card, get the extra points. Then number two, I go ahead and liquidate from my fund what needs to be liquidated. Now, if you are using a high yield savings account, this is not a big deal. If you are using a taxable investment account, then you'll have to sell, you have to sell the shares of whatever you've got in there, and then transfer that into your bank account and then use that to pay off the credit card. But the key here is that I use the credit card, I get the points, build it up for the next trip, and then I pay it off with the money from my travel fund, so I'm not accruing interest on my travel balances. So then it's pretty easy. And then, but the key here is that you just keep putting money into that travel fund. You automate it so it happens every month, and then it makes it a little bit easier. Now, for me specifically, with the use of an investment account, I use index products. So I use a stock bond split. My current travel fund is about 58% stock ETFs and 42% bond ETFs. And this is a much less aggressive stock and bond split than you would see in, say, my retirement account, which is almost, I'm pretty sure it's 90% stocks and 10% bonds. So the split's very different. And like I said, I use index products so that I don't have to worry about picking the right stock. So then the other thing you have to worry about is the tax consequences. Now, when you're taking it out of a savings account, any interest you might have accrued or or anything like that could be taxable income, but it's generally not going to be a lot. Now, with your travel fund, there is a very good chance that you will have capital gains if you are using an investment account. So for me, I minimized that by, like I said, I started out, I took 2 years to kind of build it up so that when I sell investments, I'm selling investments that are at least a year old. I get that long-term capital gains help, so I don't have to worry about paying it, with the short-term capital gains rate. I get that favorable long-term capital gains rate. Now, what happens if there are losses? I've been asked this a lot before. What happens if you sell something at a loss? Well, then now my vacation is tax deductible. So the key here is saying, what is the purpose of this account, and is it accomplishing what it needs to accomplish? Right? I have my retirement account, I have my travel fund, I have the 529 for my son that I'm actually drawing on now. But what are the goals? What is the point, right? And the point of my travel fund is not for me to build wealth for the future. The point of my travel fund is to make sure that I can go on these trips. And I reduce some of my costs through the help of rewards credit cards, through a little bit of travel hacking and looking for discounts. But by and large, rather than go through all of that trouble, I've used a travel fund. So anyway, let me know what your best tips are for saving money on travel. What do you think of having a travel fund? And if you have one, would you prefer to keep it in an investment account, or would you put it in a savings account? So super curious to learn about that and find out how you manage your travel. And until next time, just remember that you don't have to be amazing with your money. You can be mediocre.